Hi, everybody. I'm Ronnie.
Hello, and I'm Jenny, and we are.
We are the Heart and Soul Sisters.
You got that right.
And Jenny's putting on her happy face, trying to smile because this is the second time we're doing this podcast because Ronnie forgot to hit record.
Fressum.
And it's really bad because we're in the middle of a heat wave. It's what 90 degrees. 90 is gonna be 93 where you
Oh
are.
my gosh, yes, and very humid, which, for early summer is not typical
Yeah.
around here.
And I'm in the upper 80s. I'm in the Adirondacks. You're on Lake Superior. Early June
Yeah,
when we're recording this is not really
yeah.
the it's a terrible heat wave. So if we don't melt before your very eyes, video viewers, we might spontaneously combust. So if we end suddenly,
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, we're definitely going to the beach today. I don't
yes,
usually jump in Lake Superior in June. I usually wait July and August. Those are my months to go float along the shore and do my laps. But
because
yeah, I'm going in.
it'll
And
be.
and if you
I was gonna say it'll be
it's
60
gonna feel
degrees
real good.
probably.
That's fine. I don't care. And the nice thing is once you jump in Lake Superior, it just 5-10 minutes, and you're cool for the rest of the day.
You're all
So
numb.
it works. Yeah, that too. So yeah, you just stay in until your lips start to turn purplish blue, and then you're good. You got to get
Yeah,
out.
nature's air conditioning.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
Okay,
yeah. So
so today we're talking about continuing in our series of people we love, and we're talking about Glennon Doyle. And
yes, we are.
um, we discovered her book Untamed. Actually, my daughter discovered it, and so that's actually
Yes.
the only thing of hers I'm familiar with. But she listened to it and said, "Oh, mom, you got to listen to this book." And so I listened to it, and then I said to the rest of the crew, we all got to listen to this book." Um,
Yep. That's what we
and
usually do with books. We
yes,
like,
that's
I'm
how
listening to it, you're listening to it, we're all
we're all
listening to
listening to it.
it.
And these
Yeah.
days,
So
for these books, I tend to listen to more books, at least personal books that I read for pleasure than reading them. Although
yeah.
we often will go back and buy the book so we can make notes and go over it again after we listen to it. So
Yes.
that's kind of nuts. But anyway, so uh, so yeah, Jenny, I was going to throw it to you. Why did you love Untamed? What was so exciting about it for you?
I just loved her Glennon Doyle's honesty and her being, I think we like that word transparent, but just being so authentic
Mm-hmm.
and coming forward and saying, this is who I am. This is where I've come from. This is, you know, my all my talents of who I am, but also my shadow self. I mean, she shared some things in the book that, are very personal, that are, for some would be embarrassing, or you might feel shame over them, and just really, I think, embraces herself, all of who she is, in such a beautiful way, because we're all this way. We all have the side that we want to show to the world that we'll get accolades for, and then there's the shadow self. Those other parts of us that we don't want to share, our failures, our poor choices, that we regret,
Mm-hmm.
anything like that, um that we feel like we have maybe lost face over, or
Right.
might have a hard time accepting in ourselves. And so she just really, I just think, what just in such a beautiful way shared, in different little chapters, like different mini stories of who she is, what some of the choices she's made, what she's learned from those things.
Right.
And I just thought it was beautiful, and her path toward, really, her partner Abby, which is
Mm-hmm.
just such a beautiful story,
Yeah.
and so heartfelt. And I just have a tremendous amount of affection and admiration for both of them,
Right.
and how they just, like, fiercely live their lives, and accepting who all of who they are.
Yeah.
And that's a just such a beautiful thing. So because that's, I think, what we're all called to do. We're all called to live more fully who we are, not to live our lives by trying to please others, whether that's our parents or our coworkers or friends or whoever,
Hmm.
um, our family members. We tend to look to other people, you know, often to say, okay, is this okay? Am I being the person you want me to be?
Right.
Or do I need to change, like a chameleon, change my colors, to make you happy and make you like me and make you want to, keep loving me. I think a lot of us tend to do that. And certainly those of us who are survivors, I mean, we learned to survive by bending to someone else's will, right?
Right.
Or giving
Right.
in. And so it's really, I think, even more of an uphill climb for um, people who have survived adverse childhood experiences to really figure out, who am I really? What do I really want? What really makes me happy or makes me feel more fully alive? And so that's where I'm, listening to her book and her story was just really moving, because that's what I've been doing, certainly as a individual, but I think we've been trying to help each other as
Yeah.
sisters, is
Yeah.
living more fully, stepping out and saying, "Yep, this is who I am. This is where I came from, and this is how I'm trying to find more full healing and living more fully who I am and figuring out who I really am."
Right. Right.
And so yeah, so I just really um have great admiration for Glennon Doyle and for Abby and their family. Just
Yeah.
that they're being so open and sharing their story. It's was amazingly encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah. The other part about that, I think that you and I talked about, is that it's not just that she's sharing things that, kind of without fear of judgment, right? That some people might say, well, I'm not going to tell people this thing about me because they might look at me differently, judge me negatively, whatever. But that um, she really says that I am who I am today because of all these experiences. And we've both
Right.
said the same thing many times to each other, to
Right.
ourselves. It's like, okay, there's a lot of stuff that happened that we didn't have any control over that we didn't like. On the other hand, we're doing things now that we would not have done had we not had those experiences, had we not gone through those experiences, had we not learned something from
Absolutely.
those experiences. And so that's the other thing that really resonated with me, is that she not
Yes.
only embraces it all, but says, this is what made me who I am. It's not just that I'm willing to live with the fact that certain things happened that were difficult, uh, but that it's because of those things, not in spite of those things,
Right.
that I am
Right.
who I am,
Exactly.
and I embrace that.
Even some of her poor choices, that she shares, some of the choices that she made that she
Right.
is less than proud of, but that how reflecting back how those choices shaped who she is and
Yeah.
helped her to become a better person, want to become a better person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just awesome. And also her being so beautifully open about her struggle with depression and anxiety.
Yes.
And she talks some about her struggle with addiction, um, and and I know that we've shared that in last year's podcast, talking about my struggles with depression, anxiety since childhood,
Yeah.
and and the medications, being on medications at different times, and some medications helped me and some didn't, um, and just that whole letting go of the stigma that oftentimes our society, our family members, our friends who mean well, want to say, oh, well, you don't really need that medication. Um, research shows that counseling is just as good. Well, that's for reactive depression, but it's really awesome how she, and I'll let you take that over and talk about how,
Yeah.
because you shared, yeah, about with
With my
your students, but
students.
that's certainly something that I've struggled with as a provider, a family practice provider. um, with my patients for years of them coming in and say, "Yeah, well, I was feeling really good, but I stopped taking the medication because my family member was really giving me a hard time, or my spouse, or my sister, or my brother, or my best friend, and told me that I shouldn't be taking that it's damaging my brain and all that." And it's like, what?
Right.
And
Right.
I am constantly, having to tell people, your family member loves you, I'm sure, but they are misinformed, and they are not they are not giving you sound advice because they're giving you advice out of ignorance. And so take that away, Ronnie.
Well,
I'll
it
go
just,
back to
yeah,
you
I
because
mean,
it's there's still so much of a stigma
right.
in our
That's
society.
exactly the word I was going to use. That there's so much stigma that people view mental illness itself as a weakness. And then if you're taking something to try to help with the mental illness, that also makes you weak. Like you should just buck up and get over it, right? If you're depressed, just get out there and go for a walk and get over it, right? You're anxious, well, just calm down,
Yeah.
take a deep breath and get over it. And so I teach in a program that is focused on wellness, and we look at like the biopsychosocial model of well-being in the broadest possible sense. And we were talking about anxiety, depression, and medications and those sorts of things. And I had a student share exactly what you're talking about. She said, I was really struggling, and I went on medication about 6 months ago, and I feel so much better. I'm just happier. I'm getting my work done. I enjoy my schoolwork done. I enjoy the job that I have. She said, but my family's pressuring me to get off of it now that I'm doing better, right? I'm doing better now, so they want me to get off of it. And I said, first, thank you for sharing that with us, right? Second, let me tell you about this book I read not too long ago. I said, and I kind of described it. And one of my students, as I was describing it, said, "Is that Untamed?" I said, "Yes, it is Untamed." I said, I want to tell you something that this author shares. And I say she's very open about her struggle with anxiety and depression. And she says, in no uncertain terms, I love my meds. Do not try to take my meds away from me.
Yeah.
I need my meds. She said, if you are someone who struggles with anxiety or depression, and you have medication helps you, and somebody tries to tell you or to shame you into giving them up, tell them, I said, and forgive the vernacular here because I don't normally use this word, but Glennon Doyle says, tell that well-meaning person to fuck all the way off. All the way. Not halfway, all the way, because they don't know what they're talking about. And my student was so grateful. She was tearful. She said, "Thank you so much. Thank you so much for telling me." And I could see in her the resolve to go out there and say to her mother, who was her mother in particular, who was on her, "No, you can't have my meds, right? They are working for me. I'm going to continue to take them." So just that alone was worth the price of admissions, right? To have that message and be able to amplify that message out there in the world. Um,
Yeah.
so that really that jumped. I laughed right out loud when I heard that in
I
the
did
audio
too.
book. It's like,
I did
God
too.
bless you. We need
Yeah.
people to be brutally honest, direct about these
Yeah.
kinds of things, whether it's mental illness or childhood trauma or anything else that we've stigmatized in our culture. We need voices out there with megaphones saying there's nothing wrong with you. Um, do what you're doing, whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. Keep doing that, right? All of those messages are so important, and that's one of the things I really loved about her book.
They are. They are. And I really love that she was so, because what she talked about of creating this, it's partly about her and Abby's love story
Yes,
of meeting each other and falling in love, and and how they, she didn't receive support really in the beginning, and how they just decided to create their own island, and that only people that loved them and supported them and were nurturing toward them were allowed on their island.
right.
And that's really what you and I did
Yes,
26 7 years ago,
yeah.
and said, we our islands with our bridge connecting
Yeah,
us,
connecting our islands.
but we really had to say enough is enough. What's important is that our little family units are are bathed in love and
Yes.
safe,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that, you know, our spouses, our children are protected. And and then it became more than just about protection. It was about, we have the right to thrive. We have the right to be just surrounded by loving, supportive people. And that,
Hmm.
so that became relationships in terms of adopted family, friends, you know.
Right.
And it's
Hmm.
like, only people are going to be allowed into our circle who are fully embrace us and help lift us up as we would want to help lift our loved ones up.
Right.
And it just, I just loved how she talked about that, and
Yeah.
she took it even further,
Yeah. Well,
um, in
well,
her book.
yeah. The thing that really struck me was that it wasn't that, like, she talked specifically about her parents, and it wasn't that her parents necessarily disapproved of her relationship with Abby, but they were afraid, right? They were afraid
Yeah.
of, the kids potentially being stigmatized, bullied, treated
Yeah.
poorly at school or
How
other
are people
places.
going to
So they
treat
had,
you? Yeah.
they kind of this nebulous sort of, list of fears, so it wasn't, in their case, it wasn't that it was abuse necessarily, as we were, concerned about, but just like, you're not going to bring your fear, right? If you can't embrace us joyfully for who we are, until you can embrace us joyfully for who we are, no, you're not coming to see us. We're not going to subject ourselves. Your fear is your problem, essentially. And it resonated with me for the reasons that you said, that it was very similar to our story, but it also brought me back to when my daughter was early in high school, and she had a really close friend who was a boy, and he came out to his family and didn't get a real supportive response. That's since changed, thankfully for him. But initially, it wasn't very was the family wasn't as supportive as he would have hoped. Um, and we were, because he and my daughter were very close, and the families were close, right? We were one of the first people he came out to outside of his family, and of course, it didn't change anything for us. He's still who he is, and we loved him, and he was, very appreciative of that, and um, and he and my daughter continued to be close. They, in that time, the show Will and Grace was very popular, and they used to refer to themselves as Will and Grace. They did everything together. They were just thick as thieves. And shortly after this young man came out, my daughter came to me and said, "Mom, what would you do if I told you I was a lesbian?" And I said, "I would love you, right? It wouldn't change how I feel about you at all." I said, "But I would be very worried for you. I would be afraid for you to be a lesbian in a society that still stigmatizes that identity, and even, people get targeted for abuse and for other forms of violence. Even I said that would worry me, and doggone it if Glennon Doyle doesn't talk about that, right? In her book, she talked about how,
Yes.
that fear, right? That I essentially was saying I would be afraid for you, and that's
Yeah.
what her parents were doing. And she said, "Nope, you shall not pass," right? I thought,
Right.
oh, rats. And then she talks about how,
She's right.
yeah, she's absolutely right. Yeah. And then she talks about how our society says, like, the pat response, if people are coming out, or like you see it in the movie. She talks about it in the movie. She was actually watching a movie where a woman was I think it was a young woman, was disclosing that she was gay, and her parents said that, "I love you," and Glennon's thinking, "Don't say it, don't say it." And they said, "I love you no matter what." Right? And she said, "No, no, I don't want you. I just want you to say, 'I love you.'
Yeah.
Can that be the full sentence?
Yeah.
Can that be the full response?" It's
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe there are some things out there to be afraid of. Maybe, we do live in a social context, but can we just have pure love and acceptance? Can that just
Yeah.
be the way we interact with each other? And so it made me feel bad about that response to my daughter's, gosh, that would be 15, almost 20 years ago, that
Yeah.
that we had that conversation. So, but I get it. I understand what she's saying, right? Can we just say,
Right.
"I love you," and um, and I
I
support
think
you. And
it's
if something comes up that's difficult, then it comes up, and then I'm still here, and I love you, and I support you. Right?
yeah, and I think
That's the standpoint we live in.
that's what that's our goal, right? We're all working toward is, I mean, that's why we're here in the
Hmm.
physical form, I believe, is to just grow in understanding, to grow in love, allowing each person to be who they are. You know, you bring into this world your personality, your gifts, your talents, and you hopefully expand and add to those. And, but I think there's so much conditioning in our cultures and and through our organized religions, of
Mm.
um, you know you gotta believe all of these doctrines and follow all this, to be a good whatever, however you want to identify yourself.
Right.
And so there are a lot of limitations and a lot of um, rules that are given to assigned to what love is. And I don't get it. I've ever since we've been kids, we've had family members and friends who are gay, lesbian, trans, whatever, however they identify, and they're all beautiful, marvelous, wonderful people. And
Right.
I've never understood how we can put limits on love and say this love is good, but this love is not good, and to judge it as any love as less than, because love is the purest, highest goal, you know, that we're all called to,
Yeah.
is to love each other. And so, yeah, so I just have tremendous admiration and affection for, yeah, for the transparency, I think is the word you use,
Yeah.
of Glennon, Doyle, and Abby, and sharing their story with the world. And I just just want to meet them and give them a big hug. Tell them I think they're awesome.
Yeah.
They're awesome, awesome people. I
Absolutely.
want to hang
Yeah.
out. Yeah. So yeah, I just fell in love with them all reading her book,
Yeah.
and
It was
so inspired.
yeah. And I think it was fun to see parallels between the things that she's talking about and trying to do, and you know, in her journey, that with us, things that we're trying
That
to do,
we've been
things that we've been through, learned,
absolutely.
and yet still learn so much from her.
Yeah.
That's again, that's why we do this, because somebody might hear something in what we talk about in our stories that resonates with them, helps them think about things in a little bit different way, helps them learn something, helps them grow. We've learned from so many people along the way. That's we just want
Absolutely.
to,
That's why we're here, to help
yeah,
each other,
be part of
to
that
help each
that
other, to give,
circle of learning
yeah,
and support.
that circle of love. We just want to love everybody. We just want
Yes.
to we just want
Can we?
everybody to get along.
Can we? Yes. Can we
You
make?
go be you. That's fine. I'm going to go be me, and that's fine too.
Yes,
And we don't
exactly.
have to be exactly alike, thank God.
Right. Right.
Thank the source, whatever you want, however you want to word it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I love seeing all the different perspectives out there and
Hmm.
hearing new thoughts, new ideas. And that's what storytelling is about. It's learning from other people's experiences in life. Yeah, we all have something to learn from each other.
Yeah. And
And so
and
being fully who you are is so important,
yes.
because if you're hiding behind a mask, or you're trying to pretend to be something else, you're not fully here. And we need you to be fully here. Everybody
Yes.
needs to be fully
Yes.
here in the now.
Yes. That's yeah. That no. That's so awesome because, certain things. There's a lot of people with very similar messages out there, but the things that I was speaking for me, as we're doing particularly this series of people that we love and why we love them. Um, it sometimes it's the way you say it, it's the language, It's the anecdote that you share. It's like, oh, like hit like that connection I made with, oh my God, that conversation I had with my daughter, right? It was exactly that
Yeah.
conversation. So everybody is telling a story. It could be super similar to many other people out there, but you're telling it in a way that someone that this particular group of people can hear it, where maybe they couldn't hear what somebody else with a similar message was saying. And that's why I never feel like there's too many of us out there trying to share, because you never know who you're going to click with, who's going to speak to you in a way that really is helpful. So
Absolutely.
it's exciting.
We're all needed.
Yes,
or
we are.
Wouldn't be here.
Exactly. Call back to Dr.
Yeah.
Kim. One of the things, I don't think we talked about this when we talked about her, but she always said whenever you have an idea to do something, it's because there's somebody out there in the universe who's calling for it. Right?
Oh, that's
So
cool.
I love that idea, because like out of nowhere you could say, I need to go do X. And it might be because there's somebody, and she says it's because there's somebody out there who's saying, I really need X. Well, how can I find X, right? And that's where creativity comes from. And I love that, this idea that,
Yeah.
that we're all connected. We know we're all connected.
That consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so that the calling for something is the beginning of somebody else coming to do it and satisfying.
So
that
our 7
call.
listeners
Yes.
were calling
You're
to
welcome.
us. And that's why we're doing this for you. All
That's
these
right.
wonderful, beautiful
The
people.
7 of them, they're our husbands and our children, but oh well.
They count.
They
all
do count.
We all count.
And maybe they need to hear our stories for the 100th time, because they weren't listening the first few go arounds.
Oh shoot.
All right, we might need to wrap this up.
Sure. Absolutely.
So, well,
we love you, Glennon and Doyle. We love
Yes,
you,
we
Abby.
do.
We love your
We do,
family.
we do.
Many blessings. Awesome.
Yes. We thank you all for being with us again this week. And until next time, we wish you so much love, so much light,
and so many blessings.
Absolutely. Be well.
Bye.